We're going to start another talk tonight in the Greater Than series. Dan started it last week, and he talked about greater than disappointment. And tonight I'm going to talk about greater than hurt. And naturally, the subject isn't even fun. And so if you are not too excited about it, then what you can do is you can utilize Dan's message from last week and learn how to get over your disappointment. Okay? This isn't an easy talk for me. I'm going to be sharing some things from my family. And I have asked my family if it was okay if I had their permission because it involves them. One of the things that I've noticed is you go to a grocery store, Walmart or Target, when you walk down the greeting card aisle, they're missing a section that you could probably make millions off of. And this would be called the spiteful wishes section. You have happy birthday, season's greetings. You could have a spiteful wishes section and people would go nuts over this. Let me give you an example. Here's some cards that you could make. I must admit, you brought religion into my life. I never believed in hell until I met you. As the days go by, I can't think of how lucky I am that you're not here to ruin it for me. Congratulations on your promotion. Before you go, would you like to take this knife out of my back? You'll probably need it again. We have been friends for a very long time. Let's say we stop. My personal favorite, your friends and I wanted to do something special for your birthday, so we're having you put to sleep. I'm so miserable without you, it's almost like you're here. And I think it's funny. I think we could actually laugh at those, and the reason why is every person in this room can immediately associate with hurt. It is something that every one of us knows. It is something that we have had people do to us, and some of us are probably sitting there listening to those cards going, I'm doing that. I'm going to make that happen. It's amazing what hurt can do in a person. It can fuel us and energize us. It can justify our behavior, and sometimes we can even use our hurt to rationalize why we do the things we do. It can give us a sense of entitlement. Well, nobody knows what I've been through. It causes us to hide who we really are, probably even from ourselves. It can shrink our self-worth, but it seems like mostly it steals our confidence, shapes our lives, destroys our dreams, tells us what to do, and hurt ultimately tells us what we will become because it has such an impact in our life. The truth is, though, when you get on the subject of hurt, we treat it like it's sacred ground. We don't want people to tread there. We don't want some guy in a white shirt to tell us about it. We don't even let ourselves tread there. We don't even let God tread there. And yet the Bible reminds us of this in Psalms 90:10. It says, the length of our days is 70 years, or 80 if we have the strength. Yet their span is but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass and we fly away. Jesus also told us in John 16:33, he said, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. Why? In this world you will have trouble. But take heart, I've overcome the world. So Jesus himself said, hey, congratulations, you're alive. By the way, there's a side effect to living. It's called suffering. And we're all going to experience it at some time or other, sometimes more often than others. I can remember in my own life, I can remember when my parents sat all of us kids down and they explained to us that they were getting a divorce. I was 5 years old at the time, and I couldn't even understand what divorce was. But I can tell you, I remember every part of that. And the thing I remember the most was I remember the feeling that was in the room. I can remember that more than anything else. Because something was being undone. Something was being broken. And I can still remember that feeling that was there. I wish that was going to be the worst pain I'd ever feel in my life. I wish that would be, that we only had to experience pain once and then we were done. We did our time, and that was it, but it's not the case. Think about a redwood tree for a minute, a California redwood, a sequoia. They can get up to 370 feet tall. They can live over 2,000 years. Some of you have been there. They're huge. And at all appearances, they're this mighty, incredible tree. They're majestic. They're powerful. With how old they are, they seem eternal. And yet, if you cut one of them open, you would see rings that would tell you a different story than what you see on the outside. You would see rings that tell you about their history, about a time of good health. You would see rings that show a season of good weather and strong growth in the tree. Then you'd see rings that would show you a season of drought. You'd see rings that show you a season of disease, of fire, and even wounds, be it from a tiny bug or a lightning strike or some crazy kid with a knife leaving his mark. Maybe you'd even see a mark left by a war that was fought over the very land that tree was growing on. And then I think, imagine the stories that we would see if we were to cut each other open. Because it's not normally what we see. Maybe we'd see an era of an alcoholic father. A ring of the time we watched a close one suffer from cancer or another illness. Or when you brought home your report card and you were compared to your sister. Maybe, though, it was the time your spouse closed the door for the last time after 12 years of marriage. Or the ring that shows fresh dirt being thrown over a casket of someone you couldn't live without. The ring of never hearing your father say, "I loved you." The ring where you were touched by someone who should have been protecting you, and they touched you in a way that they had no right to touch you. But no one ever sees that ring. Maybe it's the ring where your daughter was raped and you couldn't protect her. The ring where you came across your spouse's emails, cell phone records, credit card reports, and you had that gnawing feeling that maybe there was someone else. Or maybe someone simply said one cruel thing to you, and it has forever changed the way you've lived your lives. I think it would be fun to imagine a world where everyone cares and everyone loves and nobody lies, but that's not the world you and I live in. You and I go through life carrying hurts, wounds, bruises, and even really deep gashes, scars. And most people don't know about them. What we do is we become really good at camouflaging and even burying that stuff. We're going to read Psalm 55 today. So if you turn your Bibles, I want to give you a little bit of history about what's going on here. David wrote this psalm. And this psalm is one of the infamous psalms of lament. And lament is Latin for weeping. And I want to give you some history of what's happening in David's life. David is writing this psalm during the time that his son Absalom is rebelling against him. David is king, and his son Absalom is coming to the city gates, and he's proclaiming to the people, "Don't go to my father with your problems. Come to me. I'll be a better leader and a better king. Come to me with your problems." And even one of David's great advisors, Ahithophel, was rebelling. He was encouraging Absalom. And so David's at this place where he's going, my own son is coming against me, and he's hurting. And so this is the psalm that he's writing. Now, I want to point out this too. Our greatest hurts always seem to come from those who are closest to us. When I was reading the story about this, I had a struggle. I was like, how come David never said anything to his son? He was the king. How come he never pulled his son aside and said, "Son, what's going on?" This is also right after David had committed adultery with Bathsheba. And in an attempt to cover it up, had Uriah the Hittite killed. And then Nathan the prophet came to David and he said, "You blew it, dude. You messed up big." And so David is at this place where he is absolutely ashamed and in grief about what he's done. And speaking of being hurt by people that are closest to you, did you guys know that Uriah the Hittite was one of David's mighty men? Uriah the Hittite was one of David's mighty men. He had 30 of them. He had 30 of them. He fought side by side with Uriah. He sat at meals with Uriah, and he still had him killed. Speaking of hurt coming from those we're closest to. So David's in this place of shame, and what it had done, the reason why he never said anything to Absalom, was because he had lost his sense of moral authority because of the own mistakes he was making in his own life. And I'm amazed at the things that we watch people lose their moral authority to. One of the side effects of hurt, whether you were the one who did the hurting or you were the one who was hurt, is shame. And this is an important thing right here. Shame is a thief. Shame will steal from you everything that God wants and sees and intends for you. Shame is an absolute thief. And at this point, not only is David experiencing shame being a thief in his life, he's hurting. His own son's coming against him now. So let's look in Psalm 55. Listen to my prayer, O God. Do not ignore my plea. Hear me and answer me. My thoughts trouble me, and I am distraught at the voice of my enemy, at the stares of the wicked, for they bring down suffering upon me and revile me in their anger. My heart is in anguish within me, and terrors of death assail me. Fear and trembling have beset me. Horror has overwhelmed me. And I want to stop right there, and I want to talk about this. This is the guy who slayed a giant when he was a boy. This is a guy that took the bear and the lion by the hand and killed them. This was a warrior. Psalms 55 is not written by a sissy. And yet he's saying right here, I'm in absolute anguish and terror. And then he goes on. I said, oh, that I had the wings of a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. I would flee far away and stay in the desert. I would hurry to my place of shelter, far from the tempest and storm. So, you know what that's called? That's called escapism. And I think this is where most of us get hung up. Okay, I'm hurting. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to change the subject in my life. Maybe your cry would look like, oh, that I could crawl into a bottle. Oh, that I could run away with another person. Oh, that I could work harder. Oh, that I could hide in a book or in a gym. Oh, that I was prettier. Oh, you fill in the blank. Oh, I wish I had someone else's life. And so David is at this early point where he's even wishing he could escape, where he could go to Palm Springs or something to get away from it. And then he goes on. Confuse the wicked, O Lord, confound their speech. For I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they prowl about on its walls. Malice and abuse are within it. Destructive forces are at work in the city. Threats and lies never leave its streets. If an enemy were insulting me, I could endure it. If a foe were raising himself against me, I could hide from him. This is important right here. But it is you, a man like myself, my companion, my close friend, with whom I once enjoyed sweet fellowship as we walked with the throng at the house of God. Only someone close can cause pain like that. One of the things that I've really been thinking about as I've been trying to prepare this and hear what God wants to say is how much good can an angry, bitter person do for the kingdom of God? Or for their family? Or even for themselves? And I've really been trying to ask myself that question. Maybe we need to answer it. I want to show you some pictures. This first one is a picture of my sister Hannah. And the reason why I'm holding her so close is because she's in a wheelchair. And so she was at a dance that Fellowship Church had put on for students that missed out on their prom experience. My sister's here. She's right over there. She's sporting her sweet legs. And we were at a dance. It was absolutely awesome. Real fun time. There's one more picture, I think, here. Yeah, that's it. We were just having a blast. And, I was really thinking about, what am I supposed to talk about when it comes to hurt? Because hurt's a pretty rough subject. And I felt like I was supposed to share this story. And so if you were to come and ask me what happened to Hannah, this is what I'd tell you. This is what my family would tell you. This is what friends who know her would tell you. When she was 2 and I was 4, we were playing in the front yard, and we have an irrigation ditch. And Hannah was like my shadow. She kind of went everywhere I went and did everything I did. And we were in front of this irrigation ditch, and there's an 8-inch irrigation pipe that went off from there, and it irrigated our field. And my sister fell in, and was underwater for 20 minutes. And I ran and I got my mom, and my mom was amazingly prompt in the way that she came and looked for Hannah, called 911. And within minutes, we had a driveway full of paramedics, firemen, and I will forever be indebted to firemen, to paramedics, to EMTs, to police officers, because it doesn't matter what we say about them. They will always be the first ones to show up and help us when we need it. And so I'm so thankful for them. So they're looking, they're digging the pipe up, men with shovels, it's hysterical. And they finally find my sister. My dad knew that the best place to look would be in a corner in the pipe where the pipe took a turn, and that's where she was. She was dead when they pulled her out. Took her to the hospital, and they were able to revive her. And it was all over in the newspapers. Hannah is a miracle. The doctors told us, however, they said, your sister, your daughter, she'll never walk, she'll never talk. She's going to be a vegetable. And my sister has absolutely defied that to this day, haven't you? Yeah. Because she talks, she tries to walk pretty good, and she gets around pretty good. She is to this day the happiest person I've ever met. And the only reason I can explain why is because I don't know where else a 2-year-old is going to sit for 20 minutes than on the lap of Christ. I think she understands better what you and I are going to experience than anyone else. But there's a lot of things I remember about that. I remember crying in the driveway and just beside myself. I didn't know what to think, what to do. I remember the pain that our family went through. Every one of us in our family. Man, that was a tough time. Every single day since then has been hard for our family. It's been tough. I can remember people telling me, you're such a great brother. The way that you love your sister and the way that you take care of her and the way that you do things for her. And I remember this red sticker that my mom had in her little silver Datsun on the rearview mirror. And it said, Hannah is a miracle. And I loved that sticker. And we drove around with it for years. And I hated that sticker at the same time. That sticker haunted me. And here's why. Here's the story you don't ever hear. When Hannah and I were sitting by that ditch, I said 3 words that changed my family's life forever. I said, Hannah, jump in. She jumped in. I want to share that because I feel like me being someone who says, you know what, here's a shame in my life, just maybe will give you permission to go, you know what, I've got a shame in my life that I want to share. I kept that hidden for most of my life. I never told my family what actually happened. And I have been absolutely amazed at what God has done through the entire situation. In my own life, in her life, in every one of our lives. God has been so faithful and so good. And so what I want to do is I want to give you guys 3 traits of a person who will find God to be greater than hurt. And I'm going to